So today we're going to have a quick read of not a patient testimony, but someone who was actually involved with a patient. This is a testimony from a guy called Dr. Terry Simpson, and basically this is really bad. Well, but what the Gerson therapy did. This is really bad, and if you are still put on by the Gerson therapy after this, then there is something wrong with you. Anyway, it begins. She was raised in her dad's store, a store that sold vitamins and supplements. She never once saw a physician growing up, but had weekly chiropractic adjustments. When she had her children, she had to fight the school district because she refused to have them vaccinated. When she got to my office, she had a large mass on her neck, and it was obvious from 20 feet away. She was gasping for breath to the point where I brought her straight to my clinic, to the operating room, to interview her and to keep her from dying of asphyxiation on the spot. I then removed the mass. It was Hodgkin's lymphoma. The pathologist told us that it was a good type to have. We did some scans of her abdomen and chest, and she didn't appear to have the disease outside of the area that I had operated on. The oncologist recommended some simple treatment, which would include a bit of radiation therapy to the area and some chemotherapy. She refused. A mother of 4 children and barely 25 herself, she said that she would trust her chiropractor and what she wanted was natural. Her husband, father and mother all nodded in agreement. They thanked me for saving her life, but were going to explore the cancer treatment with their chiropractor, whose name, oddly enough, was Dr. Sue. A week later, they were in my office, cramped with the group. They were excited about going to Mexico, Tijuana to be exact, so she could start the Gerson therapy. I had no idea what it was, so they opened the brochure and showed me. It involved juicing, something she had done her entire life, but 13 glasses a day of carrots and other things. It also involved coffee enemas as well, as ingredients designed to make her sodium level low. I asked why she thought this was better than what my colleagues had offered. This is natural and it cures people. Look at the testimonials here. Plus, Dr. Sue knows this treatment. Says it's the best. I looked at them all, excited to go to Mexico, excited to start the journey, a validation of their beliefs. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, I think this is a mistake, I said. You have cancer that may even be cured by even what we did, but certainly can be cured with a bit of therapy my colleagues offer. It's proven to work. It's proven it works. You are young. Why not do this therapy? Then go to Mexico if you want to. Her father, Big Al, put his hand on my shoulder. You know, I haven't known you a long time. I can tell you how much we appreciate what you did for my daughter, but you just don't know nutrition. These guys have great results, and we trust them like we trust you. Your colleagues just want to burn it with radiation and poison it with chemo. Gerson therapy will boost her immune system. I had been in his store. I'd even bought a juicer from him when I was trying to enjoy carrots in a new way. Big Al was a salt of the earth type of fellow who would give you his shirt off his back. A big man, and when he shook your hand, you felt his hand being swallowed. You felt your hand being swallowed by his, but he never shook it too hard, just right. Why he liked me and not my colleagues, I could never tell, but I also knew that they were going to Mexico, and I wanted not to burn the bridge if they came back and needed my help. It wasn't cheap. Several $1,000s for juice, enemas, and injections. They were not rich. She had cared for her 4 kids, her husband worked hard as a contractor, and all her family chipped in resources so that she could get her treatment. They had their tickets to San Diego, where they were met at the airport by a van and then taken across the border. A week later, I got a postcard from them. The postcard was a bull ring in Tijuana, and a note said, "Doc, I feel better already. I didn't know how tired I was. I can't wait to knock this cancer out." I put the postcard down and my nurse came into my office to tell me that a hospital in San Diego was on the phone. The doctor on the other end was curt. "Your patient is here with Campylobacter septis," I think that's how you spell it, "from injections at the centre in Tijuana. Why did you send her to that place?" I explained that I didn't, and I asked him to tell me what was going on. He said that she was sick and her family had asked to call me, and that could she be transferred back. The injections she received were infected with bacteria commonly found in American turkeys, where they may have gotten the liver to inject into the patients. In addition to having a bad infection, her blood chemistries were off as a result of the coffee enemas combined with the other therapy she was getting. I told him that I would be happy to have her back home. I would take her on my service and that she was pretty sick and it might be a few days. I talked to him and told me that this was. I talked to him and he told me this was not the first patient he had seen like this. He was an infectious disease doctor and he had seen several cases, and he gave me the reference that the CDC reported. They come to this clinic, but when they get sick, the van drives them across the border and drops them off at the airport. She, like many, was just too sick. As soon as they crossed the border, the driver called 911 and then left her at the Jack-in-the-Box. Several days later, she was well enough to be transferred back. I visited her in the hospital. She didn't blame the clinic, although her dad, Al, was furious. She was being treated while he and the rest were relaxing at the beach in San Diego. I would have come down there and picked her up. They didn't need to drop her off. A big man who was angry is a bit frightening. 2 weeks later, they were on their way back to Tijuana. "I'm done with those injections," she said, "but I wasn't done with the therapy." Big Al drove her back, stayed with her the entire time, and they sent me a postcard. This one was from where the margarita was invented. "Doc, I feel so much better than ever. I've got energy. This cancer is licked. Bring you back some tequila." It was a year later when she came back to my clinic. At 5 foot 4 inches, she now weighed less than 80 pounds. She was breathing hard, looked yellow, and said, I wonder if it's something in my neck again. I can't catch my breath." I put her in a wheelchair and walked her to the hospital, where we placed her in the ICU. She felt better with oxygen, but a chest scan, followed by a CAT scan, showed several large masses in her chest, her liver, her lymph nodes, and all throughout her chest and abdomen. It was either her original cancer or some variant of it, and it was back, choking the life out of her. She improved a bit, but the oncologist wanted some tissue to confirm it. Examining her, I felt a lot of cancerous lymph nodes in her armpit. I biopsied those, and it came back lymphoma, not Hodgkin's disease. The oncologist said sometimes they change into something worse, and that looks like what happens. This time it wasn't going to be easy. I dreaded the conversation. Her new oncologist, she'd fired the old one, asked me to come in with him and would explain the treatment he would suggest. It was a new treatment made with monoclonal antibodies. Easy on her, and he explained it to her exactly right. It boosts your immune system. We are not poisoning the cancer, just helping your cells get rid of it. She looked at me as if asking for advice. I silently nodded. In a week she was out of the hospital, and 2 weeks later the remaining lymph nodes in her arm could no longer be felt. CT scans showed a reduction in the mass. Years later I was in my office when a new PA student arrived. "You don't remember me, do you? You helped my mum." I hadn't heard from him in years. He was a son, the youngest of the lot, having finished college and now on clinical rotations to be a PA. "Mum sent you this." I opened the box and it was a bottle of tequila with a note. "Take care of my boy like you took care of me. If it were not for you, I would have never lived to see my kids graduate from college. Yes, this was the original bottle I got you. I don't know I don't know if it's any good. Just so you know, I only drink coffee now. Stephen will explain. Stephen told me how when his eldest brother, named after his grandpa, Al, got home from college one summer, he got a summer job with Dr. Sue. Al asked about the people he referred to the Gerson clinic. Al got the charts of all 12 of those people and started to call them. Al came home in tears. Turned out his mum was the only one still alive. All the rest had died within a year from cancer. The family sat down together that day and decided to learn more about the complicated stuff. Stephen said, after that happened, Grandpa said the best place to be when you get sick is in the hospital. He sold his vitamin shop, retired, and started telling his grandkids to keep getting educated. Every one of these 4 kids got a scholarship, went to school. All the boys got athletic scholarships. Stephen told me that they were all Americans in school with average A's, no, not in the fluff subjects, all of them science. All pushed by the mum and grandpa who wanted them to know how to think. Now in my clinic was the last one. Food is a cure for all diseases, or as a cure for some. The United States has a long history of nutritional pitchmen who advocate that food, in one form or another, will cure cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and a host of other problems. It started with Graham of the cracker. When Kellogg and Post of cereal fame thought they could cure diseases, came in being vegetarian enemas and some other ideas. Ironic that their food products are now considered junk food. Gerson was another one who built that complicated regime for headaches and felt it was a cure for many other diseases. His clinic isn't run by him. He died in 1959, but by his daughter, who is not a physician. Let's get that right, because a lot of people think she is. If you run into his disciples, they will tell you how the government doesn't want people to get well, that they are doctors, are tools of big pharma, and that we are in the sick business. They won't tell you. What they won't tell you is that of the 7 publications about the therapy that has been around for over 60 years, none of them met the basic standard of evidence. They are all flawed. They don't know that the Gerson clinic doesn't follow up on its patients, and that when followed upon, and that when a follow-up has been done, as by Al, or published by a naturopathic physician, the results are horrible. No, what they want you to show you is a slick brochure, a DVD, or a website. Instead of believing scientists, they believe a brochure. Isn't it odd? They won't believe a scientist where we test things, but will believe in a slick brochure from a clinic operating outside borders of the US. Steve McQueen went there, died of his cancer shortly after. So did comedian Paul Patterson. And a host of all others. It would be nice if drinking vegetable juice worked, or taking coffee enemas. They won't let you drink it, but they think it's magic if it's shoved into the rectum. Maybe because they want to believe it, so they ignore the data. Like every pitchman before them, selling simplicity, it's natural, it works. Against science, or as Big Al called it, the complicated stuff. When I asked Stephen what Big Al meant, he said Grandpa knew he wasn't educated, but he tried. He believed the stuff that he was sent by everyone who sold vitamins or natural cures. He wasn't as well read with the material. He tried to read a biochemistry textbook to learn more and thought it was beyond him, but he kept it in his shop. He somehow thought he was missing something. When my brother came back and started to tell Grandpa about the scientific method, testing a theory, he realised that the answer might be in that complicated stuff. It turned out in his retirement, Big Al went to a community college and started to take biology and chemistry. He didn't do it for a degree, he did it to learn the complicated stuff. But I suspect he also did it to show his grandsons that learning was serious stuff. His favourite two classes were biochemistry and physiology. Stephen did a good job in his rotation with me. He's now working at a cancer hospital telling his story to patients who want to learn more about alternative therapy. He has a sensitive way of healing people through the process, and I'm sure that the hospital is happy to have him. I expect that many people, the simple answer to cancer and don't want to learn the complicated stuff, it's easier to blame Big Pharma than it is to learn what it is by all means. Sadly, that means they will spend a lot of money on pitchmen that don't cure cancer and just relieve your wallet. This is exactly the same as all the other testimonials. In fact, the last testimonial I posted was from a guy who had been to the clinic and he'd got cancer again, and when he phoned up, they ignored him. In fact, they refused to even acknowledge that he'd actually been at the clinic when he actually had a photo of him and Charlotte together. So yeah, this just goes to show you these people are absolute lunatics, and it's quite hilarious where they say the turkey injection, because believe it or not, as part of the original protocol, that used to be bovine. It was some sort of bovine injection, which they had to get rid of because guess what? Might get a risk of, mad cow disease in humans. So, as you can see, these people have no idea about their therapy. It's all pseudoscience, and it's one massive scam. I'll leave the link so you can read it yourself.